Hey, what's up, guys? It's Russo. It's Monday, and we've got two killer NFL games tonight. Now, the Broncos and the Bengals, I know that might not be as exciting to watch, but I'm excited about it because I've got Broncos defense in Dynasty, and I'm down by 45 points, so I want to see them just like stomp the Bengals and get a bunch of turnovers and stuff. But so I'll be definitely invested in the game still. I don't know what the Bengals are going to do without Burrow, though. It's just looked really bad. But the other game, the Jets and the Dolphins, that one's going to be exciting. Both of these games have the same over-under. There's a lot of similarities in these games, both outdoors, both have a chance of rain tonight, so we're going to talk about all that. But let's talk about the plays real quick. So I didn't really want anything to do with the Bengals, so I didn't take anything for this particular slip, but we're going to go Tyreek Hill over 65.5 receiving yards, J.K. Dobbins over 12.5 fantasy score, Breece Hall over 21.5 receiving yards, and Devon Achane over 38.5 receiving yards. I'm kind of looking for this to be a little bit of a shootout between the Jets and the Dolphins. We're going to break it all down. Before we do, if you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use code BACKDOOR, and when you play your first 5, they're going to give you $50 in bonus funds. All that information is down below if you guys want to jump on a killer platform. And if you want something for free, $20 free when you use code BACKDOOR on Chalkboard. They run all sorts of specials. It's a killer tool. It's very user friendly, and it's all mobile, so you can just always lock it in. I think they'll get a desktop eventually, but right now it's just all mobile, Android and Apple. And they'll run like discounts and free plays and stuff like that, like every single day. It's not just like 1 or 2 days a week. And on top of that, it's like usually like 12 to 14 promos that they're running every day. So check it out. Plays as low as $1. All that information is down below. And let's start breaking down these plays. So I talked about the similarities. We got 44.5 is the over-under for both of these games. The Jets and the Dolphins are supposed to be a lot closer. 2.5 point spread favoring the Dolphins playing in Miami, and then 7.5 point spread favoring the Broncos playing in Denver. I'm kind of surprised that it's only a 7.5 point spread, but if you look at a situation like the Bills and the Saints, that opened at like a 17.5 point spread, went down to 14.5. And then ended up being kind of a close game for the most part, kind of surprising. So yeah, you just never know. We use these as tools, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be exactly that. So let's talk about the weather real quick. So this is the Jets and the Miami game. I mean, the only thing that makes me, oh wait, this updated. Okay, good. Oh yeah, the gusts. This didn't update. So the only thing that makes me a little bit nervous about this game is the gusts of wind that they're calling for, up to 18 miles an hour. Last thing we need is Tua having Mother Nature affecting his accuracy and making it worse than it's already been. So I really hope that it's not too much of a factor, but I'm not overly concerned. I'm still taking Tyreek over on a lot of different props. I chose his receiving yards because that seems like I just think he's going to break off a couple big plays tonight, but there's a lot of props of his that we'll talk about that I'm personally excited about. But yeah, slight chance of rain throughout the whole game and kind of hot. The lowest it's going to be is 79 degrees, and it's going to open up at around almost 85 degrees. So take that for what it's worth. Now this game in Denver, also slight chance of thunderstorms throughout the game. I just hope we don't get any rain delays or lightning delays. I don't feel like staying up until 2 o'clock watching football. I love football, but I get tired. I start to get tired, but so yeah, the gusts are not as bad, about 8 to 9 miles an hour throughout the game. Shouldn't really be a factor. Nothing seems too rough about this, and it's actually going to be nice and cool for the players. High 60s. So let's start breaking the plays down. So we got Tyreek. A little bit spotty as far as the yardage goes through 2025 for these first 3 games. But if we take a look at the target share and the targets, it's been solid. We're on a steady incline, and it's been 6, 7, and 10 targets. Solid catch rate. He's Tyreek Hill. 67%, 86%. Now this 50% game, this was not his fault. This was Tua making some bad throws, in my opinion, like throwing him into like double coverage where it's still not even accurate. So he's like double coverage, has to jump up, get super athletic and stretch as far as he can just to get the ball. So can't blame Tyreek there. We need Tua to just tighten things up a little bit. And I thought that they looked pretty decent against Buffalo in that last game. So The matchup's great, 26th in receiving yards allowed to wide receivers and 13th overall. So we got a little soft spot there. If we take a look down here, Sterling Shepard and Igbuka went off against the Jets. Both of them eclipsed 80 yards. So that's actually kind of impressive for both of these guys. Igbuka has really came out of the gates hot as a rookie, but it's been mostly touchdowns. He gets a lot of red zone looks. So for fantasy, Igbuka is kind of a powerhouse rookie, but he hasn't gone crazy with yardage. I would bet that this 85 might even be his best of the year. And then Sterling Shepard, who's like 32 years old, who I still like, but just due to the situation with Mike Evans being out and stuff. And I wasn't expecting Chris Godwin to bounce back that quick. They were kind of slow rolling it, like they were going to ease him in, but Chris Godwin looked great. So that's great for the Bucks. But yeah, Sterling Shepard came in and put up 80 receiving yards on the Jets. If we come down here to when the Bills played the Jets, we know the way that Josh Allen just mixes it all around. So no one really popped off, but Joshua Palmer still went for 47. He was kind of like the leader that game. But then you got DK Metcalf went for 83 yards and Calvin Austin went for 70. So they have trouble. And the funny thing is like receptions wise, they're actually pretty good about not allowing a whole lot of receptions and targets against their opponents. But when those guys do catch the ball, they're able to break off big plays. So that's just the perfect recipe for Tyreek to eclipse his receiving yards. Let's take a look at daily grind real quick and see if there's some pivots you guys might prefer. So they're not feeling his fantasy score, and I absolutely disagree. I think he's getting in the end zone tonight. And when you use this DFS optimizer, I love this tool. It's an awesome tool, but you have to know what you're looking at. So part of the reason that it is favoring the under here on the 14.5 is because it's recognizing that other platforms have it lower. Prizepicks actually has it the highest of anybody at 14.5. Pinnacle is at 13.9. So DraftKings 13.7. So that's how you use this tool. You set it on the platform that you're using, and it'll separate that, and then it'll compare it to all the other platforms that are offering it. So you get all that information in one place. It's really awesome. And then it calculates it for you and says, hey, you're getting this cheaper than all the other platforms are. So maybe this is a good spot to take the over. Or maybe it's like, hey, this is kind of inflated. This might be the platform to take the under. Awesome tool. They actually, his receiving yards went down a little bit. Nice. So if you guys are locking in, I think I locked it in at 64.5. I said maybe 63.5. But at that 62.5, they actually are favoring the over. 50.95% odds to hit the over, minus 122. You got Pinnacle all the way up at 67. So yeah, 62.5 is a good deal. It is the cheapest on the market right now. We got plenty of 65s and 67s. So it looks like these platforms are starting to bump this up a little bit. Longest reception, they have him favored to the over, just barely, 22.5. Yeah, I think he's breaking off a 40-yarder tonight. Like, most teams that are playing these guys get some big plays against them in the secondary. So 22.5, I'll probably throw that into a slip. 50.91% odds at the over, minus 125. And receptions, they like him over 5 receptions. This was at 5.5, so getting it at 5 is solid. DraftKings has it at 4.5, minus 158 on that 4.5. But yeah, daily grind, they also give you their own calculated odds based off of crunching all the numbers. So they've got this favored to the over, minus 122. They've got the 7.5 targets at a 50-50 shot. Exactly. I like this. He went for 10 last week. And I think that if you guys saw what I saw, it looks like Miami is fighting to try to get things going again. And I mean, like, everybody's job is on the line at this point. I mean, Tyreek could get traded. I don't think he'd be upset if he did, but it's just like the drama. We thought like an off season would help this team, and they came out looking rough, especially in game 1, but they are cleaning things up quick. They played much better against the Bills than I was expecting. And if they could have brought that magic out that we saw in the second half, they could have like opened the game with that. They would have probably won that game. They almost tied the game. It was their own fault that they didn't. So I think that they maybe just chalk that up as like, hey guys, we went up against the number 1 defense through the air, and we actually were in this game the whole time, even with a slow start. So I think that they come out tonight and they come out of the gates hot. That's what I'm hoping for. So my point is, all that being said, I actually like the targets over, even though it's at a 50-50 shot. All right, let's keep it moving. Breece Hall. Okay, so I was looking at his rushing yards, but we're taking the receiving yards. Yeah, so He's done this twice this year already. He didn't get it done against the Bills, but again, they're number one through the air right now. So to running backs, the matchup he has against Miami, 29th in receiving yards allowed. Teams are averaging 54.7 receiving yards to running backs alone, regardless of who they're playing. Overall, 22nd, 238 yards on average per game. But then when you have a soft spot here for the running back, that's even better, down at 29th. And he's pretty much the wide receiver too. He doesn't rush the ball a ton. I think his last 2 games were like 10 attempts and 9 attempts or something like that. So he's not the type of workhorse that is run first. He's actually a much better receiver than people. I mean, people know he's a good catcher, but if you look at the targets here, 4, 3, and 6. He turned that into 2 receptions in the first 2 games, 2 in each game. And then he went 4 for 6 in that last game against Tampa, who's actually pretty tough against running backs. And I mean, probably the best run defense in the league. Maybe you guys would disagree. But yeah, he turned that into 4 receptions for 31 yards. Now he's got a soft matchup against Miami. And target share wise, like I was saying, you see Garrett Wilson up here at 39%, and then Breece Hall's right there at the number 2 spot at 16.9%. If we take a look here, the running backs for Buffalo didn't need to get too active through the air to their running backs. That's not really their game. It was more like Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir and these guys, Keon Coleman. But if you look at a team like the Patriots, who are looking better, but they're not like, some powerhouse yet. And Travion Henderson went for 30 yards. Ramondre Stevenson went for 88 yards. This is all through the air. And then you've got, when Jonathan Taylor was up against them, he went for 27 yards, which is great. I'm happy to see Jonathan Taylor getting more work through the air from Daniel Jones. He had like 5 receptions on Sunday or something like that. So yeah, I think this is a great matchup for Breece Hall to eclipse this 21.5 yards, not asking too much. Let's take a look at some pivots here though, in case you guys don't like that. You can take whatever you want. Man, if I have time, I might throw out a demon video on the other channel, my Jay Russo BDFS channel. Okay, so yeah, see, I disagree with this, but the optimizer is not liking the fact that Prizepicks has this at 3 flat, because a ton of these other platforms have it at 2.5 for his receptions alone. I hate when it's a flat number like that for receptions. 2.5 would have been nice. Even 3.5 would have been more clarity, but I don't like when there's a chance of a push personally. But they've got that favored to the under on the receptions. 52.67% odds to hit the under. They like this rushing yards combo, Achane and Breece, 111.5. They got it favored to the over, 52.34% odds to hit the over. The rush attempts, are way up here at 14. That's an under if I took unders. I don't really in football on Prizepicks anyways, because they kind of penalize if you like, try it sometime, make like a slip of like 4 and go all unders, and you're going to get just like a trash multiplier, unless they've updated it recently. But it's usually not worth taking the unders for me. It's kind of like goblins. Like, I know like people like goblins. I don't like throwing another thing into the equation to boost the multiplier by like 0.2%. But that's just me. I'm more into the demons where I can really crank it up. But all right, let's see. Receiving yards. So they like the receiving yards over 21.5, 51.24% odds to the over, -123. And it looks like everybody's kind of keeping it in that ballpark. Pinnacle has it at 22.5, and they've got it at -128 to go over. So we're looking pretty solid. All right, let's move on here. Achane. So very similar to everything I said about Tyreek, because Achane is more of a wide receiver. Great running back, just really interesting dude. He's kind of a one of a kind in the league. But yeah, overall 13th in receiving yards allowed. And then tightens up a little bit for running backs. 8th in receiving yards allowed. They actually allow 2 running backs on average, 21.3. So that's kind of right in that range that we're hoping Breece will eclipse, but Achane is much higher than that. But it's just not the same game. If you look at his targets, Achane against the Patriots, 10 targets turned into 8 receptions, and then 9 targets turned into 7 receptions. So the dude is leading, and him and Tyreek are tied in target share, both at 24%. So I like him to get it going tonight with this matchup for wide receivers because I think that Mike McDaniel is going to find a way to get him and Tyreek going early. That would be the best thing to do. Let's take a real quick look here. Yeah, so Bucky went for 33 when they played the Jets, and then Jaylen Warren went for 22. So yeah, we all know what Achane is. He's basically a wide receiver, so I'm feeling good about him eclipsing those. But there's like several things about Achane tonight. A lot of these guys, we've only talked about one game so far, but yeah, I was just going to say his rushing receiving touchdown, 55% odds to the over. So, I mean, I'll take that. That'll definitely be in a slip. The dude gets in the end zone. They like him over 13 rush attempts. They have that at a 52.43% odds to hit the over minus 129. There's that rushing yards combo. They're not feeling, oh man, this thing will auto correct like 10 minutes after I type something in. All right, where were we? They're not liking the receptions at 5.5. They have it favored to the under. So go with your gut. If you guys don't want to take the receiving yards, you don't have to follow my narrative on me kind of just thinking of him as like, another wide receiver, him and Tyreek having to break off big plays tonight. So always go with your gut. And that's why I show you all these other plays too, because you don't have to take what I take. So yeah, they don't like the receptions. They don't like the longest reception. They have it favored to the under at 15.5. I think he's breaking off a bigger play tonight, but we'll see. Rushing receiving combo, they're favoring that to the under. They don't like his fantasy score. His fantasy score is always so inflated, probably because of the ridiculous amount of receptions he gets and then the good chance of getting in the end zone. They like his longest rush over 13.5, and they actually do have the receiving yards favored to the over. I'm shocked. 38.5, they've got it at a 50.47% odds to hit the over. I think the only reason we're getting away with that right now is because a lot of these platforms are bumping this up to 40.5 and 39.5, but we're getting it at 38.5. So yeah, and then same thing with Tyreek. They've got the targets at a 50 shot. So yeah, I mean, like I like the 7 targets for Achane as well. I feel more confident about Tyreek eclipsing that 7.5, but there's options here for you guys. So take whatever you want. All right, J.K. Dobbins. First of all, you love to see this. He's done it consistently all season long so far. So we're feeling pretty good about him being able to get this done. Why are they showing that? I don't get that. Okay. So let's talk about it. 3 weeks straight. He's the clear leader of this backfield, which kind of burned a lot of the, RJ Harvey truthers out there. RJ will get his day, but everybody was so stoked about RJ for fantasy football, especially Dynasty. Go and draft that guy. Actually, you guys know Jordy. He traded away Saquon Barkley to acquire a first-round pick, I believe, and the pick to get RJ Harvey. And then they go get J.K. Dobbins. They sign him, and there's rumors that he's going to take over the backfield. Everyone's like, no, that's just Sean Payton messing around, and here we are. J.K. just leading the way. But I'm going to get out of the fantasy score for a second because I want to show you guys some of these matchups for him tonight. So it's the Bengals. So let's start there. Soft matchup, 7.5 point spread favoring the Broncos. So the Bengals 19th in rushing yards allowed overall, and then 27th to running backs, 110.3 yards. This rushing yards looks good, actually. I'm taking the fantasy score because I think he's getting in the end zone. But yeah, there's expected value on these rushing yards. That is low, 65.5. Let's take a look at what his rush attempts have been. So kind of steadily going down as we do start to see a little bit of a transition working RJ Harvey in more. But you know what? RJ Harvey looks really good. I know I just talked about JK taking over, but I think it's just that veteran presence and them easing RJ in, because when the dude plays, he looks great. But yeah, the attempts, double-digit attempts, so solid still from JK, but that matchup is beautiful tonight. 27th, 110 yards a game, regardless who they're playing. I'll take it. Let's look at what some of these other running backs, have done. So yeah, Jordan Mason popped off for 116. Baishal Tutin still went for 42. Travis Etienne, 71. It was just before we had Quinshon Judkins, who's an absolute monster. When they played Cleveland in week 1, it was Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford, who are more pass catchers. And I think that they did some damage through the air as running backs. But yeah, if Quinshon Judkins was playing this game, he would have had a monster day too. So I feel good about it. If you want to take the fantasy score, you can, but those rushing yards looked great too. I'm probably going to take them both. I'll probably crank up JK and do a rushing demon for him if I do a demon video. So yeah, look at that. There's that rushing receiving TD, favor to the over for at least one. 53.36% odds hit the over. DG has it at a minus 142. You got Pinnacle minus 130, DraftKings minus 130. Yeah, they're liking it. They're liking his longest rush over. They're liking his rush attempts over 14.5. They like his receiving yards over 10 or over 9.5. Yeah, I mean, that's really low too. They're not feeling the fantasy score, huh? So you think that he's going to hit all of these and that's not going to add up to more than 12.5? All right. Well, let's do the math. If he does get the touchdown, we need 6.5 fantasy score. So if he gets over 65 rushing yards, we're there. So, yeah. Again, this is just because it's the most expensive, 12.5. The optimizer's just noticing everyone else has it lower. So go with your gut. They like his longest reception over 7.5. Basically, Vegas is feeling good about JK tonight. So is that the last one? I think that's all of them. Well, let's, let me quickly, I'll show you guys some bonus plays for tonight. So you can take what you want. Dang, we got some juice here. Tua over 15.5 fantasy score, 60%, minus 153. Achan, there's that rushing receiving TD. Troy Franklin, yes, this does look good. I almost put this in the video. 3.5 receptions. Yeah, absolutely. 54.62% odds to hit the over. Go take that if you guys want. But we got some green right now. Bo Nix over 5 rush attempts. I locked this in yesterday on a bunch of slips thinking that it's definitely going over. And it still hasn't budged. The only thing that would keep it from hitting is if they just have so much control of this game that, I mean, what are the Bengals going to do to put pressure on him? Is he just going to have plenty of time to just wait till one of his guys get open? He'll probably go over that 5 though. Yeah, Pinnacle has it up at 5.5. FanDuel 4.5, and it's a minus 148 to go over. So this is one of those situations where I'm not super angry that it's a even number because I know he's at least pushing that. There's no way he's under 5 tonight. Maybe, famous last words, but Jake Browning, they like him over 13.5 fantasy score. There's that Dobbins TD. Yeah, the Achan TD is just jacked. 55%. All right, what else we got here? Evan Ingram. Yeah, we're kind of in this situation where Evan Ingram could end up crushing all of his numbers tonight because of the, questionable tag that has popped up here and there for him. But he's playing tonight, so 19.5 receiving yards. That's low. 53% odds to hit the over. There's a lot of juice on the board right now. They like Will Lutz to get 2 field goals at least. Look at all these overs. Bo Nix over 31.5 pass attempts. They like Mason Taylor receiving yards over. What else we got here? Longest rush, 10.5 for Bo. I think he hits that too. Man, I hope we have some great games tonight. I think it's going to be a good Monday night. Josh Reynolds over 1.5 receptions. That's low. Yeah, for sure. And everyone's got it favored to the over. Everyone has it at 1.5, and then just every platform's favoring it to the over. It's kind of one of the things you look for if you're like sharp betting and you're like, I gotta make a slip quick. I don't have time to go through all the details. You throw on the optimizer and you let it do the work for you. And one of the things you want to check for is like this Troy Franklin over 3.5 receptions. Like, okay, look, every single odds maker is juicing this to go over. Look at all these minus 145s. So you take the over. And if it doesn't hit, you deal with it and you move on. Let's see. Anything else here for you guys? I still can't believe that Breece Hall, they think he's getting under 3 receptions. Maybe I'm totally wrong about that. Mike Gesicki under 23.5 receiving yards. If I wasn't man, it's a low line and Gesicki could randomly pop off, but I think this looks good. This under 23.5 hasn't been very involved. Jake Browning is just a mess right now. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't need to talk through all these. You guys can see the rest of them. Jamar Chase, they think he's going over. I thought about taking, I think Jamar Chase's receptions are kind of low because we have seen in the past where Browning is just like, the world's falling apart. I'm just going to heavily target Jamar Chase. But it is the Broncos. So they're probably going to be like, hey, Browning, try beating us without Jamar Chase. You're not going to beat us anyways. But all right. They also, yeah, look at this Evan Ingram fantasy score at 5. Okay, so let's talk about Waller real quick because Darren Waller's fantasy score is at 3. Now, I'm not going to rant for too long, but Darren Waller, who was dealing with injuries a bunch, I know because I drafted him in our dynasty startup when he was on the Giants, and he's dealing with all these injuries. He's in and out. He's not really popping off like everyone was hoping he would. And so he just sits on my bench for like a year dealing with injuries. And then he just announces like, I'm going to get into rap. I'm going to get into hip hop and, pursue that instead, and leaves football. Then randomly comes back. He's had like over a year off at least. And he hasn't, I mean, it's week 4 and he's making his debut. It's like, dude, I just don't get it. Like, how are you dealing with, what was it, like a hamstring or an oblique? And I'm not trying to disparage Darren Waller. I got nothing against the man. But so I'm just like, man, if he catches the ball twice tonight, there's a good chance that fantasy score is going over 3. So like, I think that maybe this is a night where we take advantage. Like, my gut is like, I won't be shocked if he doesn't do much, doesn't hit much. But at the same time, we may be looking back at this and say, we're never going to see these lines again. It's the uncertainty why they're putting it so low. Maybe he comes out and gets 4 or 5 catches tonight. We don't know. So take that information and do what you want with it. But guys, I appreciate you tuning into the show. Thank you so much. Let's get in the green. I know things haven't been off to a hot start yet, but we're still figuring it out. We're still having fun, and we'll get these things rolling here. We'll get it dialed in. But appreciate you so much. Drop me a comment. Let's chat before the game. And if you want to come join our Discord, there's a link below. Man, our boy Jay, this dude in our Discord, Jay, he's just like a freak. The dude makes a bunch of slips and is just green all the time. Really cool guy. But yeah, you can tell his plays. You can tell like all the community. We all talk about the games and share the plays together. So if you want to come join our community, sign up through the link below through Patreon. And then if it doesn't direct you straight to our Discord, the link for the Discord itself is down there as well. But excuse me, don't forget to like the video. Show me a little bit of love, guys. And yeah, enjoy the night. Maybe I'll let you guys know if I post demons on the other channel. But yeah, I've got 2 channels here. So if I pop off some demon slips, it'll be over on that other channel. But have a good night, guys. God bless. I'll catch you in the next one.